fine.
Yeah.
Did not know that it's called Center Municipal Facility.
And you have to spell municipal correctly.
Oh, I can't spell it anyway, so.
Gotta say something.
Seemed fine to me.
Spell check didn't get it. No. I like the new picture on the front.
Yeah, looks nice.
Yeah, Kat did a nice, whoever took the picture, but Kat made the thing. That's a nice picture.
Everything's ready whenever
Okay. Alrighty.
you want to start.
We're on? Yep. Okay. I will call today's work session to order, and it is 6 p.m. And I'll turn it over to Community Development.
Okay, can I just, a couple of business items before we get into it?
I got it.
So October 16th is supposed to be our joint work session with the Seward Bear Creek Flood Board. And Nick Chapman, he took Stephanie's place, he gave me a call today and was just wondering if there was anything particular the commission wanted to discuss. He didn't have anything on his mind, so if the commission, if you guys don't have anything, we might either push it back or wait.
Do we have some time to just, so we can think about it a little bit more and just maybe email you guys? Does he have a time frame or something like that?
Yeah, maybe if you can just like within a week or.
Yeah, if we don't have
something.
anything, then we can obviously push it back, but if anybody has anything to offer, maybe we just shoot it to you and then you can consider it.
Yep. Okay, that'd be great. Thanks. Okay, and then today we're just going over the 2023 revisions for the municipal lands inventory management plan. I think Jason, you're gonna take point on that.
All right.
Yeah, so I just want to just go over a few items before we kind of start digging through this. And first, I do want to thank Carol, just because she thoroughly read and reviewed this document and provided, I would say, just a significant amount of input and recommendations and suggestions that are super helpful, which we're looking at. A lot of what we're looking at today are those things, and I just appreciate her willingness to do that, and also to her eye for seeing things that that I don't see a lot. So anyway, just thank you. We appreciate it. It's definitely going to be a better product because of your input. So and she's not here, but I do want to give Selena a lot of credit as well, because between last year's and this year's, the borough basically updated kind of the base layer imagery that goes underneath every single map. And so between last year's and this year's, Selena went ahead and updated that, and then she has to lay over all the other items on here.
Yeah.
And so there is a significant amount of work that goes into when the borough came up with new imagery, which we want the newest possible because we can actually see things as they are or close to it as they are. And so literally right after, it's probably within a few weeks of when we approved last year's, that the borough was like, hey, here's new imagery. And so
Yeah, that's helpful.
right,
Yeah.
right. So she spent, it was probably, it was a month or two of just spending time every day doing a lot of map work, and also taking recommendations from that last one too, and making sure that there's not just the focus piece, but other surrounding pieces are noted a little bit better as well. So she has probably more time than anyone into this, and so we always appreciate that. So just in general, I just want to speak to kind of some high-level themes that change through this, and really kind of I do want to mention some of those changes because I do think they're important, but really kind of the recommendations are what give this the strength of, some of the history and information is really good too, but the recommendations are kind of what you guys, that has the power of the document, and so we will stop and go through each one of those, but a number of things that I just want to point out. The changes that took place throughout this document were language consistency, kind of using like proper names instead of like hospital. We have like Providence Medical and Care Center instead of saying the prison. It's being Spring Creek Correctional Facility, and so a lot of those changes were made, which I think is a good next step. Since last year we did the big lift, this year is a little bit smaller lift. changing some grammar and awkwardness in some places. And also, there's just some things that were pointed out, like, hey, this doesn't make sense, what happened here, let's look into this. And so I did do some research. So this year, it was a really good exercise for me to go through this and read the input and go through and other things that I know and do research and find some things. And so there are a couple pieces that we're still waiting for some feedback on that I'll point out. And also too, just, since then too, every year we get some events that change, we get some replats, we get some uses that change, leases. So, and my document, that as I'm going to go through this and talk about this with you guys, I'm going to reference the map number, not necessarily the page number, because the page numbers change as we have been reviewing it and we add things. And so, so this does have page numbers on it because it's got it in the packet, but as we go through this, I am going to be going map number. So if I say, okay, on map this, that's what we'll be talking about instead of the page numbers. So, any questions thus far?
When you have to make some changes of any sort, is that a difficult thing, or you obviously have this, as a living document, so if it needs to be changes or anything else?
It's a living document, but I go through and we have it, this document is not a single document, it's broken up into, I think, 5 or 6 documents because of size. And so I do obviously Cindy does the maps, and then I do like the editing in Word, but then when we make those changes, in those documents, then Courtney takes it and what?
Yeah, I put it into a program called InDesign, which is just easier to work with for all the maps and tables, because Word is compatible.
Yeah.
Good.
So, yeah, I think it's a little bit better than Word.
Yeah.
For this type of
Yeah.
of use. So, and just to mention, there's a couple of things. We did have some updates for city administration, so that's changed. And the table of contents, and then also when we get to the atlas, those are something that we'll update at the end when all the changes are made, because pages shift and some things shift around, so those are always updated at the very last at the end. And we will be updating, we do have city council elections that come up next month, and so we will automatically update with actually even see some of the things. City staff will update all that at next month after the election. So I'm just going to go through. I'm not going to go through line by line by line because I think that would take us a long time.
Yeah.
But just to make note, we did change we changed the term use right of ways to be consistent, and then we were using official terms like levies. So if we go to so I'm working through this document that was included at the end, so it might be helpful too to pull that out. But all right, so let me go down to
Page 199.
we'll get you guys started, and I'll give you guys a page number here. There's our map atlas. So if we go to what's on page map 3 or page 16. So on map 3, page 16, actually it's page 15 and 16, we were looking at kind of the City Hall campus right now, and we are doing a feasibility study for a public safety building. And one of the configurations that has been discussed in the past, and that is actually even more discussed now, especially since GCI has vacated the building back behind us over here, which is a historic building. We saw it it was there in the 20s or 30s. Yeah. That cabin was. So, just very interesting. Yeah. But really, kind of for like if we're looking at future plans, a recommendation that we've changed is that the lot to the north of the fire hall you can see is 14912007 on the map, And then also the GCI lot would be to purchase those and create kind of like the opportunity to have like a expanded facility down here. Not just looking for an expanded fire station, because that's the possibilities is to keep it where it's at, but build it or build it differently. And then also to a future city hall area. So we did change the recommendation to purchase those two, to acquire those two properties. And in that case, one of the things is that they said they could do is they could actually vacate the alley and have the alley exit out like it does on, like between the private, basically in 1491 2013, you could have the alley vacate out, leave that way. And then you would have kind of like a large block where you can, or you can introduce a parking lot. There are some other things, but anyway, that is a recommendation change that that we made there as we're kind of planning for the future in city facilities. Any
So you can make
questions?
that all one plat there, down there, so you combine all of them into one complex, okay?
Yeah, and looking at it that way, and if you look at it as one big block that way with the vacated alley, you can just think about things completely differently when
Yeah.
you're designing like buildings, and especially if it's all city facility. You can, you could have City Hall in the corner, you could have the fire station in a different place, you could have drive-through garages for your fire station, which is one of their needs that
That's
they want.
huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's a major, I would say, a significant recommendation change that we've made.
What page are those recommendations on?
It's on page 16.
And the acquiring of lots might be, I think the acquiring, is that on
Page
194? The very end, like lands to consider for acquisition?
Yeah, that is on that one there, and then
The second page.
and then also on page 17 on the back side of that City Hall campus, where it says Fire Hall. It says acquire parcels 149. That's where it says to acquire those two there is for that fire hall. So, yeah. So yeah, that's one I wanted to mention. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go on, and I might mention a few things here and there, and I'll stop at places where we need to just highlight where we've made a significant change. So. We did some, between map 5 and 6, because the animal shelter moved since this last one, it moved officially and is opened. We did some changes to the official naming of the site, and then also had to kind of change where the current one is, and that now it's the former, and just speak to it that way as the animal shelter moved from one site to another. And that's on map 5 and 6.
Is there a note in here about utilities being installed in the house between these two lots?
Let's
That's a
see.
pretty significant improvement to see there.
Yep. So, and it will be updated. Again, when we built these, we didn't know when the timeline was. We didn't know if we were going to get in the summer, but it says yeah, so it does have that information on page 21. Yeah, page 21. So, and talk about the future use for housing. Yep. And actually, I do see a change because when that part was written, the council said they did the lot configurations a little bit differently, and so page 21. Okay. Just a little note to myself.
On page 22, the title is the Alice Pickett Animal Shelter, which is now the former animal shelter, and it talks about the sewer animal shelter, so should that title be changed to sewer animal shelter?
Yes, we have it posted correctly in one place and not the other, so.
And then are you referring to the wording on the map itself, like the image?
Right, but the
Okay.
title is incorrect.
I think Alice Pickett is what we're
Is that the new one?
going with,
Oh,
yeah.
you're going to keep the Alice Pickett one from
At
the
least
old one
that's-
and moving it forward to the other one?
That's what it says.
At least that was what the changes were in the table of contents, but, so yeah,
Are you sure they changed it to, I mean, they're sure they changed it?
into that one. I don't know if the name
Yeah, I
called.
guess we need to check to see what
Yeah.
is the official name.
I guess change titles and official name, yeah, because it says on here, changes title to official name for the animal shelter on there. And to update a description to include the actual new location. So,
Okay. All right. We will look into that. The next one is, pull this corner off here so I can get this. If we go to map 12. And there is, there's one kind of recommendation here that would be worthwhile to have a conversation over, but would be to consider adding the center parking lot to paid parking. As we are, I think, getting back to paid parking, that one's become kind of like we do have a parking permit system if people want to buy an annual parking permit that allows people to buy like I know like a lot of charter captains, they'll buy this parking permit, and it's not expensive for the year.
No.
And so I think a lot of people just try and park there. So anyway, that would be obviously something that we would have to work with other groups in, but I do think that it might be something to consider for a recommendation, especially. I think it would be an income generator for the city.
Yeah, I think
So,
it's a good idea.
and there always will be free parking on the streets.
Yeah,
But thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea. It's busy down there. That lot fills up. In the summertime, the lot fills up by about 7 o'clock. It's pretty much full. I'm down there every single day in the summertime, and I come in there about 7, and it's almost impossible to find a spot.
Right.
So it's filling up. Yeah, it's filling up
No.
all the charter oak captains at like 5:36,
Yeah.
and I don't see why the city can't make money off that.
Yeah. I think it's a very valuable piece of land that we're just subsidizing parking with otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go ahead and go with that there. And next is map 20, which will be on page 48. And on map 20, this is like the harbor master building, the ship lift rails, and the vessel washdown facility, and kind of SMIC in general. But we actually have a number of imagery issues on here, where part of Sorrel was vacated at one point in time into some other parcels, and that's not included here. We also don't have the parcel imagery for the Duchess replat and for the JAG replat as well. And so, anyway, throughout this document, we're waiting for those to kind of come in, and then once those come in, we will bring those back and probably have like a mid-cycle update. But it's just hard to create something and notify a parcel in there when we don't have it on the imagery yet. So we're gonna put off a few JAG pieces until a little bit later, until we get the imagery and information.
does the borough, when they update their platting and the rest like this, and they send it to this direction, do they actually send you new imagery with the lines on it themselves? Is that what you'd be waiting for? Or
Yeah, they actually update they update a layer on their GIS system.
Okay.
So I don't even think we have the layer, do we have the parcel yet for the Hemlock Bike Park one yet? I don't even think that one's
No, I don't
done
think
yet.
so.
So it's just, I don't know if they're behind on it or what, but we have to work through a couple of things with them just to correct the imagery and also just to get updated imagery, because I think they're behind on updating that piece.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just want to make a note of that, because it's hard to kind of create a description on something doesn't exist on a map.
Where would we talk about the issue of Sorrel Road going through SNCC and not hitting a cul-de-sac on the north, and yet it's, divided road now has the same, each segment has the same name, which is really confusing for 911.
No, because you're talking about right here,
Yeah.
right here, right? And then and this over here, because this used to be like a continuous
Right.
thing, and now like this. And the problem is that it was actually technically, I think it's vacated like from here down through here. This was vacated at one time. We found a resolution that it was vacated into the lease. It didn't make sense to have like a lease, a road that goes through in front of your shift lift. And so, yeah, so I think that will be part of that cleanup there when we vacate this, and it probably would only even, yeah, we have to figure out what we're gonna do here with,
Where they list it off, that's where it should be.
yeah, and then look at even maybe like, yeah, but that's part of this right here, so we'll note that.
And then rename this abandoned segment.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, so it doesn't make sense to have.
I'm lobbying for Healy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It is nice.
Road.
Okay. And yeah, so anytime you see a snapshot of like SMIC, you'll see that there's got incorrect imagery, which just kind of makes me twitch a little bit. So we go to map 26. And I did want to talk about, which is on page 59. So I want to talk about this in a couple of different for a couple of different reasons. We completely really changed this, but we had, like, it was funny looking back at this and until Carol mentioned it, like there's no, you can't see like the Mount Marathon trails on there, which was kind of funny because this is like a major part of like what we call like consider like a park or something that's a valued resource like that. And so we did put in the two trails, and then we kind of helped create some differentiation between the two trails, where one is a race trail and one's a hiking trail. And so we consider like what we consider the bold trail, the hiking trail, and then the race trail is obviously the race trail. And then we did significant updates on the description. And it's interesting too, looking at part of these, is that the recommendation was to lease or sell with a sound development plan. I don't think we want to sell any of those things that contain those with a sound development plan. And so, so we changed that retention status to like we want to retain ownership and delete that part where it says the sound development plan. So anyway, that was kind of a major update, just to put it on the map where we have the two trails that people can actually see them on this, and major change on the description, and then obviously the recommendation. So.
Just to note, very few people realize the city city limits, goes up to the race point. Goes all across Rensselaer.
Yep.
It's huge. The DNR is in charge of it.
Yep.
But it is a Pennsylvania.
Yep. And we do we do have we have this weird, like at one point in time we were allowed to get lands from DNR, and we had like a certain allotment of so many acres, and right now we have this really weird allotment that sits on Dick Raff Road, like after it goes out. Once you kind of hit the culvert, it's out in that area where it's like the part that water washes across all the time. We own these like weird acres in there, and so I've talked to DNR, and they're like, well, yeah, we can have a conversation, because if you wouldn't want to give us those back, then you could pick another set of acres out of your allotment. And so there's, I think, so I do have a contact there, but anyway, just when looking at like DNR land that is adjacent to city land within city limits, and also too, like with actually I think about it too, because the DNR also owns the land on 4th of July Beach. And that would also be another place where like, okay, we'll give you back these X many acres, but we would like to take get the acres like over there and actually be able to create like a park, or even up the Mount Marathon Race Trail if we want to. I mean, so anyway, there's a future land exchange that we could discuss. Probably this would be the best forum to do that, about where we might want to exchange some lands with the DNR, because we don't, they said it doesn't make sense for you guys to own land out on Dickraft Road where it's like a wash basin that just where, you know, it was,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a purpose at one time before all that was put there, but it doesn't exist now, and so,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, little side note. Okay. So map 32 is the next one, which will be on page 71 and page 72. And just the additional recommendation would be to officially name this, the levee or road, as 4th of July Creek Levee Road, or another appropriate name. But we don't have a name for emergency response services. You know, like let's say someone got injured out at the quarry, they might not know where to go.
Yeah.
And, or else even if they're doing like search and rescue out, something's maybe like hunter, hiker, someone went up towards Godwin, they're like, hey, just go off of the, you know, people might not know where to go. So I think having that name, and also providing signage is important.
Yes.
Is there any other recommendations as far as like names specifically, or would it just be, I mean, when you say 4th of July Creek Levee Road, that may be helpful, but I don't know if there's any other.
It's long, but it sounds fine to me. I mean, it is what it is. It's
4th of July
Creek.
Independence. Keep it in the same vein, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah. So, but is everyone okay with that? Is everyone okay with that recommendation? Independence, eh?
Independence Avenue.
Independence Levee.
Yeah, right through there.
And would you want to vacate that parcel and convert it to a right of way?
Okay, I'll be back.
It's better
Yeah.
to have a road
Yeah.
parcel.
Right. Yeah, that might be an additional recommendation, would be to vacate parcel.
Well, is there more than just the road there? Is there more land on either side than a normal road would have?
It's pretty skinny.
I don't know, when I look down at this picture, I just see green on the other side.
The-
If it's more than a normal road would have,
Mhm.
then probably shouldn't get rid of that land.
Yeah, and it
If
looks,
it's just the road and kind of like a right of way on either side that a road would normally have, then it makes sense just to make it
right,
a road.
yeah.
If you compare it to Delphin, which is going north-south, it looks about the same.
Mhm. Yeah, 60
Yeah.
feet is the standard right of way.
I've driven through that area.
I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure
And
We can look into
it's
that.
the proper.
We can look
width
into
and
that,
not
so.
getting rid of something that, you know, is more than what it should be.
Okay. Well, we'll call that good for now. We'll kind of make a recommendation to look into that at some point in time.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, on map 37, going to the next one, which is on page 80. And we did, actually that one does have one, so, but we do have the bike park.
I think we just drew that line in.
Yeah, we did shoot that line in. So we faked that one. But yeah, we don't have a parcel number yet for the bike park, but it should be coming. So it's just, it's easy to talk about parcels when they have parcel numbers to them, so. But that one will be coming, so that's one of those ones, probably add that in when we get that. The next one will be paved, is just right around the corner. On page, map 38, which is page 81 and page 82, for the parks near Doorway. And just as a side note, I think it was last week. Yeah, it was early last week. Well, actually a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, we got a report from ADEC about the results of that last extraction they did and the testing. And so what they said is that we want you to actually do testing on the outside of kind of the main contamination site, because they found arsenic and naphthalene. And those are, they said that if there's, basically these can occur, they call it like naturally because of just human existence. And so they said if you guys, if we're going to do testing around there, and if it occurs naturally around the area that was not part of that contamination site, then you guys are fine and good to go. Which will be really, really great to have that one, like, it's done, and so much money has been put into cleaning up that site. And so I met with them out there the last week, and they said they were pretty confident because they looked at some other testing that was done around there in that site. And so he said, the engineering firm said they were really confident that they think that this may be it, which would be really, really great. So that way, hopefully over the winter, we'll get the clean bill of health, and then we can start kind of making plans. And we've already paid, I think Metco is part of that grant at the beginning to go ahead and like fill this in and kind of plan it off, so then we can kind of decide what to do with it there. But so anyway, just want to give you a quick update on that piece, which is exciting to be able to do something with that. But with the recommendation here that was put in there is that if you, and I don't know if you guys have ever been down there, but it's that there's a road, and we're going to be, there's a parking area in front of the gate, but then there is kind of an old, you can almost see like an old platted like right of way that looked like it meant to be, but it's not really anymore. But what makes sense there is that at least for pedestrians and bicycles, you can see a little bit below the yellow line is to be able to put a bike path in there. And so we did include recommending a pedestrian bike path along the northern edge of that parcel, because I think it's important that people be able to like walk or bike down from like Doorway or some of those new neighborhoods and to be able to come in there just right through there. So just a recommendation change, kind of
Very nice.
minor and obvious, but a good one.
What would you think of devoting the north half of that parcel to a road? I know there's private parcels to the north, but take a chunk out of Jesse Lee parcels and then jog up to connect back with the fencing. Seems like that would be a really good intersection to connect up with all those properties, all those neighborhoods.
Yeah, I think that maybe it might be wise to look into that a little more in depth, because that might take traffic pressure off of that new subdivision up there. If instead of could split there. I mean, I don't know if I want to start it right this second, but I think maybe if we actually talk to Public Works and see what they think, but that it does make sense.
Yeah.
It's a valid discussion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the tough thing is though, is there would be like because of the way that the parcels were at, it's not a straight road, it'd be like a,
Yeah, we'd have to see what it would be and look at, is it actually going to take pressure off? Is it going to be something people will use, or probably just going to continue down the main road just because it's the original road, I should say, because it's easier or because it's less turns.
Right.
Just
yeah.
other things to look at to see if it's going to be valid.
For sure. And I know that like that parcel that's just to the north, that's along Phoenix there.
Yeah.
That is a Pruitt lot. Jim Pruitt, who just passed away recently. And so I know like the family's taking over and they're managing that, but that would be like if the city could acquire that one and then talk to Cole Peterson owns that other one too. At least if you could get some of that southern end of theirs for that housing, at least it would make it a little bit more of a less of a jog over.
Yeah.
As a just as a possibility. But and the thing is too is like I think you could totally put a road there, and the thing that's nice about places like that is you can make it like a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit, since it's near a park, and you can really slow traffic down, and you can do things like that. So that way people can get through there, but they have to be very careful.
Yeah, having alternative routes too does help a lot, because it's such a bottleneck there. It's not good for that.
So should we add that recommendation, investigate possibility of road going through?
Yeah. I think it's a
Yeah,
good idea.
absolutely.
Okay.
The curve could be a traffic calming feature.
It could, it could. Just hope people pay attention.
And it's a direct shot to the school.
Yep, yep. And you can always put a sidewalk along that southern end and then connect it with the sidewalk that goes along there. I mean, eventually you'd want to have a road and a nice sidewalk. Okay. Okay. Okay, so map 40. And this is, where are we at here? Oh, my. So it's, if you look at, where are we at here? So if you look at Second Avenue there, there's this little like bump that sticks out right here. I actually went and as part of this I got to do some ground truthing, which is kind of fun because you find out some things that you didn't know. But there's actually like a trail that goes in right there.
Right.
And there's a little creek, and then there's that old stair. I always remember the stairway, but then but yeah, so there is a trail through there. There's signs in there, and then there's that old set of stairs. It's kind of derelict that goes up that accesses that. But no one's obviously used it because no one's maintained it, and it's not safe to walk through. But I do think that would be a great place to be able to redevelop as a way to access the park and the rest of the trails that go through there.
You're talking about the cliff trail?
Yeah.
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 Yep.
You know, that spot does flood, so we have to, because I've seen that completely filled with water.
Right, and so, but I think that there's some easy ways, like you could boardwalk it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that far at all.
Or figure out why it's flooding, maybe put a culvert in there, because
Oh, there is a culvert.
I haven't seen the culvert out. I don't know. We'd have to look into it. But
Yeah, but I think there's ways in the long term that even if you because it's not that far of a boardwalk,
No. It's not.
and you could boardwalk it to the stairway and have a nice like scenic thing where you can look over that area.
It's an anadromous stream right through there.
Yeah.
too. People could enjoy watching this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a great area, and it gives access to that, and so, I just think in general, just some recommendations to create the access, and there was a this lot right here is undeveloped, and I can't remember who owns it off the top of my head. I looked at it the other day, and it was one of those lots, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they'd be willing to sell it, because at least you could have a couple. Yeah, okay, that's what, my mind was like, maybe it's Pruitt again. But that would be an area where you could have a little parking area.
Yeah, parking spot would be nice there because that's also right across the street. Well, not directly across the street, but close to the little,
Firebrand.
no, the Rotary. Doesn't the Rotary have it's not a gazebo, but it's a
Yeah.
pavilion.
Pavilion.
It's,
Yep.
Yeah, right near the pavilion, which has kind of a pull-off-ish, but it'd be nicer to have an actual designated parking spot.
Yeah, so my recommendation there was just develop parking, provide a small bridge, and fix trail access off Second Avenue, to be able to
Yeah.
fix the stairs and that kind of thing, so. Any comments on that change of recommendation?
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, good catch on that one.
Well, that's the historic site too, where that stucco building was, right? And that's kind of neat to like maybe one of those placards. Like you could kind of see the foundation, so you could even add that historic site to it. That's a cool spot. That would be cool to fix that up.
So, we should have access to it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just, let's see here, kind of cruising along, and like you said, like on the Mount Marathon trails, like on all the ones now, you can see that we do have the dotted line. Like if you go to the next page on map 41, we have the dotted line there, so just trying to create some consistency so you can see on every map where that would occur, that would go up there, so. Map 43. So, just the recommendations, and I don't know if you guys know, but Melanie Hawes is the Parks and Rec director. She's been around Seward for a long time. She's actually used to do Parks and Rec way back when we first moved here, and she was part of a great group there. And then they have a new deputy Parks and Rec director, Tyler Mallory. And so I think they're really starting to kind of build up their department there and what they want to do. It's been pretty exciting to hear about upgrading their public restrooms and the shower houses and getting things so they're up. I mean, they have a plan, which is really great. But I think one of the things that I did want to add here for the Quabbie Park would be to eventually get so that we have year-round public restrooms. Even if they're open just during the day, like they don't have to be open 24 hours a day, because we know that from the harbor office, we're dealing with all kinds of stuff down there in those ones, which is unfortunate. But I do think it would be good to advocate for a year-round public restroom use, even if at some point in time we have to install heaters or however that needs to take place so that they can in the wintertime. But I think it's important if we want to have people here in the wintertime to be able to have some amenities like that, so they can just be there or go have a couple places where they can have public restrooms in the wintertime. So that was just a recommendation change. And they are, I did talk to Tyler today, and speaking of we're getting into some parks and stuff like that, but they're looking at getting a grant to redo the park that's there next to the ball fields. The playground there next to the ball fields, yes, thank you. But the ball field that's down there, that you drive around. But anyway, they're gonna look at redoing that one, because it gets used a lot. There's kids there a lot,
Yeah.
and so, anyway, which is exciting.
Is there a name for that one? Bullfield Playground?
Called Blaine Playground.
It's the Blaine Playground?
Blaine Playground.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so anyway, they're looking at,
Sounds great.
they're looking at grants right now. I think he said they got kind of a quote for their plans, about $300,000.
Okay.
And they're looking about getting some matching funds to do that, to redo that park, 'cause it's probably one of the most, it gets used a lot, so.
Yeah.
Map 44, just a quick note that we do need to, Carol's recommendation was to post a street sign for Pump Station Road. No one knows that name, and no one knows where to find it, so.
Yeah.
It's such a pothole. It's called a pothole.
Okay,
It's horrible.
let's make it happen, Pothole Road.
That's all right, we need it.
Yeah, so just did some names there, identifying Scheffler Creek, and then, and so as we're getting up into some of these ones here where we start doing leases, I did go through and I updated all the lease information, because the borough did that, updated their information, which we all are aware of when we get those little things in the mail that says, we're gonna tax you more. But anyway, I did do all that information, because that's in here. But it's interesting, if you look back, we've always done assessed values, but it doesn't really the leases are based on appraised values, not assessed values. So we get those appraised every 5 years, and then we have this continuing, they add adjustments every year. But I think in future years, even though we've done it this way in the past, I think it really makes more sense for us to put in the appraised values with the adjustments that they put in every year, because that's actually how we're calculating the lease value of that property. So I think as an addition in future years, we'll do that instead.
That's gonna change things quite a bit then for the leasees.
I mean, no, that's what they already use. They already use the assessed, they already use the
The appraised?
appraised values.
Okay.
They pay, so all of our leases are 8% annually of the appraised value. So the assessed values don't really
You're
match
just
up.
matching it up.
Matching it up,
Okay.
and so, but yeah, I don't know why that they used assessed values in this, the borough assessed values. That only tells you what the tax would be. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's important too, but I think for us, as we're looking at this, it seems like the lease value would be more important, so.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, next. Bat 58. Everyone's favorite topic. Just wait for the pause.
Okay.
When people get there.
Gotta get there.
So, and actually kind of starts with 57 too, a little bit too, but anyway, we're gonna, it'll be interesting. We're dealing with the airport aviation and hazard easement area. So, we haven't really put anything, I mean, our recommendation is to retain ownership and discontinue easement when long runway is abandoned upon Stewart Airport Improvement Project completion, but we did have someone send us some information that I thought was thoughtful about looking at, if we do the short runway, can we have this like exchange of lands, that's where the old runway is currently at, and create like a conservation area. So anyway, there's some, it's like, oh, that's something I had not thought about before. But anyway, we have the airport has a lot of stuff to sort out. So,
Yeah.
Did you sort out this lease on page 57? By granting lease that goes through the parcel, the airport wants to buy.
right, yeah, and so we'll sort that out if they actually get to do that, so. But yeah, we do know the lease, we talked to AT&T, we have like the GIS coordinates. We did confirm all that because there's some other questions that did come up around that, because of, there's two different questions on like where that thing actually went. And we know where their little, if you go look down there, there's that little round, looks like a round how, like a bunker that sits about this high off the ground, and it's this big round thing, and that's where the access point is, and then it goes out. And so we know where it is now, so we can for sure, we can like calculate size and all the stuff. So we have the information so that we can have the conversation when it comes up. Yeah, yeah. Okay, map 66, which is the waterfront tracks south. And so just in general, this was, again, Carol had a great recommendation. So these were all out of order, and so we now have them going in order from south to north. And we just did a replat on this area, so we'll be changing that. You guys approved that preliminary replat, and it got approved at City Council. And so we will be doing something here, but we did want to change the recommendation because we do own the property for the UAF Stewart Marine Center, but the recommendation, it currently says increase public access, as this is a no-cost lease. We don't want to have public access to a research facility when they're leasing and they have vessels there and all that kind of stuff, and so we removed that there. And so a lot of the recommendations, we actually met with the Sea Life Center yesterday, but we do want to eventually get the easements and locations of their intake and effluent pipes in the tidelands and kind of establish official easements, because now they're talking to the Army Corps of Engineer and people need to know where these things are, and so we'll need to create documentation for that. So, any questions so far? Is this a good way to just kind of keep going through some of these recommendations this way?
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously, you guys can see that document, but, and there are some, changing the official names of titles, and that type of thing, so.
I think I have one change, and I think you have a couple of changes, but if we just go through this and then
Yep.
maybe jump back.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Where are we?
we are map 66 right now.
Getting there.
And then I think the next one was, I think we made a recommendation, addition was or sell to the chamber on map page 68 for the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
So that building is probably the most appropriate for always being a visitor center.
Yeah.
And so I think that could be a consideration if they chose to
Makes sense.
buy it. Map 69, we did change it was interesting, the description said, the camps are hemmed in, this is map 69, the Seward Military Resort. The camps are hemmed in with no growth potential. If the camps were removed, this area could be used for elementary school expansion park and or campground under residential and highway commercial uses. It's just kind of odd, I didn't really feel like it fit. I don't think that military resort's gonna be going anywhere anytime soon. And,
Definitely not.
and so, and I don't think the elementary school is going to expand, and so really like that's kind of like that's a great thing to have in our community. So, anyway, we did remove that. Map page 71. The J-Dock used oil shed and fish cleaning station. So some of the stuff here before it said that until the lease was finalized, or until the lease is finalized. It says here recommendations are continue lease and ARC until the ARCC lease and sale agreement are finalized. But in doing the research, that those were finalized. It was just part of this deal that. So they exchanged small tracts of undevelopable land. There's like some slivers that sat in these parking lots right here at this curve.
Right.
So they gave them those lands, and then we get to lease these for free. And then part of the also part of the breakwater was wrapped into that as well. And so it was funny. Like, I don't know what it didn't make sense. It seems like, well, if we're giving you this, why don't you just give us these and call it good? But it was wrapped, I don't know whoever was dealing with the railroad at the time, but it does not make sense to me why it was done that way, but that's what the final agreement was for that. So it was finalized in 2014. So we did exchange land for a long-term free lease. That's what happened there.
I thought there was an agreement for free gravel.
That's also part of it.
Okay. And then was there a $10,000 additional fee for the Z-Drive?
That I did not find. So, yeah, but it was just a strange like deal. That was, it felt convoluted a little. I mean, it happened what happened, but it seems like it could have been done a little bit easier or less and simplified. Just swap things over and call it good, and then work things out elsewhere. But it is something that will tie us. That's kind of got some strange things tied up for a long term. So.
Have you ever wondered why all this land is just carved up the way it is, and different people, different agencies have different, it's just so bizarre half the time, trying to wrap your brain around it.
Yep. Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting and hard to, like, trying to find what happened is sometimes impossible. Okay, moving along. Page map 77. Oh, map 73 first. Sorry. This is one that that Doug was looking into. But it says that we leased this from the Kenai Peninsula Borough to have a well there. And Doug's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, I don't know about any kind of lease. And so, but it is. So anyway, he's going to go back and, I mean, he's just looking at things, but talk to the borough, but no one really has a record of that one. It was news to him.
Yeah.
So, and then on map 70, map 77. We're going to be redoing this one because the city council approved the sale of that corner lot there, a portion of it, of 1450-2608 to Seward City Tours. But the recommendation that we were going to remove anyway was update recommendations. It was supposed to be like set aside for the fire department annex station, but that's no longer part of like the city plans. So anyway, we will be removing part of that, and then next time around you'll see that this will be a completely different replatted area. Map 79. The Bayview vacant lot. I did, actually, this is one of those ones where I actually went up there and kind of ground truth it. Andy Larcher lives right there. And so there is access there. At one point in time, there was not. But really, like you're not building a house up there. It said,
Super steep, isn't it?
yeah, no, it's super steep and it's just a forest, but it is steep. It does not make sense, and so I changed the recommendation, because I think the recommendation to remove rezone to single family and sell, and change that is due to steep slopes, retain for watershed and scenic view shed. And then when we get in, add a conservation overlay at some point in time, but yeah, I walked up there and I was like, you're not gonna build, I mean, yeah, you could build a house on anything, but it's not a good idea, so it would cost a lot of money, but it seems just to, at some point in time, to just add that to like the greater kind of parcel. But again, it's really interesting, if you go look at a lot of those lots and kind of the ones that sit up against the hillsides there, and you go and you look at it, you're like, it's interesting that they plotted these here, because it's like, you look at like, you can't build there, so. But anyway, just that changing that recommendation to retain.
Would you want to replat that into the Sheffield Creek watershed and this view shed? That's a nice connection. You vacate the alley, you add that piece, and that would really formalize it.
Yep.
Yeah, because it actually is part of the previous recommendation. You're talking about retain for watershed and scenic view shed. You combine.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're gonna do that anyway, we might as well just lump it in.
Replat to the,
That would really be
Yeah, to the Sheffield Creek watershed.
but is that a 30?
I think it is a specific parcel. It's that like narrow little parcel that goes just around the Scheffler Creek, I think.
This is like off of Phoenix, kind of, right? Is this like off of
Okay, yeah,
Phoenix,
that makes sense. Yep. I just want to look at it, yeah.
No,
Yep.
it's
Okay, I get it.
down. How do you get it? How do you actually get to Bayview Place? That's down.
It's off Phoenix.
Yeah.
It is on Phoenix in that
Yeah.
lower area. Is that
So
area?
if you know where
Okay.
David Kingsland's
I'm
driveway
picturing it
is,
now, yeah. Yeah.
you basically
Okay.
just kind of go up that and then you take
I was thinking
a
something.
left.
But Harold Avenue.
Yeah. So this Harold Avenue, I mean, that's not even,
Because Harold is in a whole different area that I thought was. But, oh no, you're probably right. I'm just thinking of it a different area. That's never mind.
Okay.
yeah, that's a funky setup there.
I wouldn't go for that.
Let's see here, where are we at? Next one is map 80. Map 80. And I think that we discussed this before, and I know that, but that kind of made the official recommendation is that this parcel right here, it kind of makes sense to look at it. So a long time ago, before this was built, this used to actually be a cul-de-sac that came up here. And then they decided to build this here. There's actually water lines that still run underneath there that have been vacated. So the recommendation then is to make this, is to take, because now the access point for these is right here. And so you can actually like vacate this right away that's right here, and you cut this in half, and then this owner takes up half that parcel, and then this owner takes up half that parcel. Because it's not really usable by itself. They would just add to this and then make it a little bit more developable.
Yeah.
So the recommendation for that is to sell, clean it up and sell it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and we have had people, have had people interested in it, but I think they'd become more interested if it was a little bit bigger.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 'cause it's just a little piece of land that just really does nothing right now.
Just
So-
getting used by the neighbor.
It just
And,
accumulates.
and the apartments, so we've had to have people like move their stuff off there, we've talked to them before.
Yeah.
And would you want your recommendation to be a 60-foot right-of-way? Because the road is very narrow there. And I think elsewhere in this document it was, let's conform to the borough standards, the minimum 60-foot right-of-way.
Where is, Where you talking about?
So right here it says, vacate the new plat south property line, create a minimum 50-foot right of way, maybe that should be a 60-foot right of way. On page 176. Talking about.
Okay.
That was a recommendation.
It seems like that was a goal, to have 60-foot right of way.
Oh, yeah. So what we're saying is that right now, this is the current 50-foot right-of-way. So it'd be to vacate it, cut it in half and then vacate it.
No, along Old Pine Road. Along the south boundary here.
I just want to make sure the Lowell Canyon Road there has a 60 foot.
Oh, yeah.
60 foot wide.
Yeah.
That's a busy area.
So it-
Yeah, I think that imagery is shifted on there too, so it doesn't
Yeah.
look, it looks like it's sitting out there, but I don't really think it is.
It is a narrow road. It's very narrow.
You know, the imagery probably goes all the way to where those cars start.
Yeah. Okay.
So should the verbiage be changed to minimum 60-foot right of way?
Yeah, or whatever, like, I don't know, I'll have to look at, see what Lowell Canyon Road is, if it's already 50 foot. Or if it's a 60 foot, we'll just match whatever's there.
Yeah, it makes sense to match it because
Right.
it's going to be one little segment and
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I think as you have the opportunity to make it wider, you should. And then as other properties subdivide or whatever, then they would be required to match it. The city should set that standard for its own property to create 60-foot right of way.
60 feet is the way to do it.
Yeah. Well, so what we'll do is I'll go see what that is and we'll at least, I think it's, on that one, I think it's actually might be 60 already, so we'll change that.
That's pretty simple.
'Cause- yeah.
And then just in our surplus property, is this property listed, the surplus property?
I believe so. I believe so. The next one is map. 83. And we did add in some information about the feasibility study, but the additional recommendations were just to develop timelines and methods for just, because this property right here is the 145320006. It's this guy right here, it's 30 acres that the city owns. And at one time, they used this for emptying the lagoon. And the sludge removal dried out and they did all the things to it, so it's actually like benign now, or I don't know what the correct term is for it. But yeah, so it can be hauled away and composted, so anyway, we do want to find a way to get that going, because we do want to put that land into use at some point in time, so.
Yeah. Well, across the road, there's a company composting and dealing, not composting, but selling off that chip and dirt. Coming from Anchorage, it runs right across the road from there.
Oh yeah, Mark Nelson?
But he contracts with a company out of Anchorage, I believe, that owns the actual chip pile now. And
Okay.
some dirt piles, and they're mixing and selling it.
Oh, yeah. He showed me that on his property. He said that, I mean, it's interesting, if you go into the chip pile, you dig into there, it's like they were chipped yesterday. If you dig down deep in there, it has not decomposed, it's not, yeah, it's amazing. So, yeah, it's just good. But yeah, they are mixing some dirt and stuff there, you're right. So I think, and again, just map 86, we have some changes, we're waiting for some stuff to come through so that we can do that imagery there. And then, one of the things, if we go to your document on where are we going here? Page 195. And so, just kind of like on page, kind of starting on page 196 there, we have the priorities by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And proposed action items, which we've kind of, this is kind of like the, we developed this last year, and then on the back of this, we have long-term, less than 1 year, sorry, greater than 1 year, we've got short-term. And we have long-term, which is greater than 1 year, and we did get some, and then we have accomplishments. And so, some of these items are, we got some things done, and if you go to accomplishments, we got completed. You guys did the 4th of July beach recommendation work session, the Spring Creek campground recommendation, and we did have kind of a borough, it took care of itself, but one of the things was to resolve the borough access easement to the citizens, Louis Ball Field. So we found out there already was an access easement there, and then we developed one with the borough on their piece of property, so we have permanent access that goes along the borough property there now. And then we're in the process of replating the remainder of Fort Raymond for the new Public Works building, so which was kind of one of those things as well. So, but this may be, this may require some further discussion, but I'd like to hear, like, what we want from you guys is what you guys would like to look at this year. And when I say priorities, this is kind of some things that, these aren't the priorities that council sets for you and they're approved, but these are kind of like your priorities and action items and what you would like to do this year. And I did put like the cemetery master plan revision, since you're already kind of into that. We've already done some work on that, and we'll continue to do some work on that. And every year we can kind of start over on the short term and the long term items, or you can, I've left some of the stuff that's on there and moved it around, but maybe a good discussion for tonight, or maybe a discussion too, you guys can think about it, but we'd like to know what your short-term and long-term priorities are. That way we can either be prepping stuff for the future, or else even just like saying, hey, we need to get these work sessions, kind of like we did with 4th of July beach, Spring Creek, that kind of stuff too. And so it's just helpful for us that we can put things in front of you for those actions. So,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I personally like, as far as redefining, or not redefining, but tightening up the CUP standards, not just the regular standards, but you've already started doing that, but also too the existing CUPs that we've issued that are just sort of marinating and not doing anything. So I don't like when people come in and promise you the world and then they do whatever they feel like, and it all goes toward they can say the visual appeal of Seward, and whether it's the vegetation, or whether it's not all these beat up cars, everything else out there. I mean, we're in it's a beautiful town, it's a beautiful location. We need to just continue to process that through. So that's the kind of thing that I would like to have, especially with the cups, and as things that we continue to move forward, and hopefully tighten up some of the ones that are out there that are just, again, not doing much of anything.
Yeah, so if we to me that would seem like a short term, that's something that we can do this year. So, because it's already in process. So we can do like, just be really specific, we'll have like conditional use permits. We will do a review, but also to a language revision, because that will give it some teeth, and we can follow up, and then we can have like enact consequences and those types of things. So we'll do a language revision.
And standardizing things so everybody's on the same page with those revisions, that's helpful.
Are we gonna look at the same time getting the CUPs that are out there to actually be completed?
That will be that, like, there's a committee that's kind of doing a little review work for us, some homework for us.
Okay.
And then they'll bring their findings back to you guys, and we can kind of, it'll be a good thing for us to just look at and work through. Because we have, how far long do our CUPs go back for? Like 7?
Like 76, I think.
And then there's like 100 of them?
There's 196 total CUPs, and I think there's 90s, I forget what it was, how many?
Yeah, for some reason,
There's some expired and some are
160
active, and I forget what the
Yeah.
breakout is. I think it's 76 expired and the rest of them are active. And,
Yeah. And it's important too, because right now our language, like we've had lots of conversations about this, our language does not have any teeth to do anything about when someone does not abide by the CUP. And so I think getting that information and looking at like, here's the CUPs, here's where they're at, that will inform us how to build the language around it, and then we can follow up around those things as well,
Yeah.
But
I know there's a lot of CUPs that I voted for that never got completed.
Yeah.
I drive around town, I can spot them, but never actually did what they said they would do.
Yeah.
Right.
And we need to make it so that that doesn't happen, and there's huge consequences if, but we probably had the reputation, oh yeah, just go through the process, you can do what you want on the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, we want to stop.
Yeah, we want to stop that, and we don't want that to happen. We
Yeah.
want, so, because we all lose when it comes to that. We have things that don't look as great.
It gives people a roadmap of what they need to do, because when it's loosely worded, then what somebody's version is, greenery or grass is, a weed pile or something versus, so, so if it's tightened up, I think it'll make it easier, we're all on the same page.
Okay.
I'd like to keep looking at the waterfront revitalization and also the RV park. And I guess they kind of go hand in hand, but dealing with the erosion issues, the gravel issues we talked about, adding gravel, we kind of looked over that a little bit a while ago, and then also maybe changing the way the RV park is so that it's a little greener. And we had a quick meeting a while back with Parks and Recs about maybe moving them back, adding some breaks and trees and
Yeah,
whatnot.
revitalize that whole area, it's
Yeah.
very pretty, and where we had the fire pits,
Yep.
move them back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we can establish more of a beach area versus everybody just right there.
Yep. And that actually may be a good topic to eventually talk about with the flood board with this new person, because aren't they the ones that,
It's gonna be a joint with a number of different people.
right, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big thing, so,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, we'll put that on the, so would you like that to be like long-term or short-term, or,
Probably long-term, but I think it can be segmented because there's the much larger issue, and it would be much to talking with Flood Board and Army Corps to actually be able to do something about the erosion and the beach. But then there's a shorter, easier area to, like with Parks and Rec, of just redoing the campground. So I think we could have kind of a two-part. We could just go ahead with our side, and then maybe work towards getting permitting and deal with agencies to actually address the erosion and the beach itself. So, I don't know, maybe a long and a short, or,
no?
I think compartment that two separate.
you know,
As you said, phases.
yeah, phases.
Yeah, maybe something to meet with, like, have a work session with Parks.
Yeah, because we can, right away, yeah, it'd be nice to talk with Parks and Rec about it. Because right away, we can start on our side and just change how we use that, how we allow people to use that, it's not a beach now, but technically a beach area.
Right. Yep. Okay.
I have a question, when they do the erosion or mitigation or when we went to the flood board and they had all that huge presentation, which is amazing, who does that stuff? I mean, is that city responsibility to fix any of that stuff, or they just, I don't know.
Dredging of the streams?
Oh, just the stuff on the beachfront, they said they're talking about the erosion, the mitigation of the erosion, who does that?
I think they said they would contract out with somebody,
Yeah.
because they need, I don't know, but we have all these sites that are obviously around here that we just need to have mass amounts of stuff removed from that used to flow there naturally. But they said they wanted to get it like back to like 1986 levels, I think was that weird year that I heard randomly.
Over 750,000 cubic yards.
Yeah, it was some
Yeah.
enormous amount, but really, like, so they said that they would contract with someone or someones that would go and just, I mean, I imagine they would probably just have a road and they would just go build it like temporary road along there, and you start dumping stuff off the edge, and just, they'd have to, I mean, obviously you're gonna have engineers and you're gonna
Yeah, it
have,
needs to be a whole huge plan. Yeah, I think they said they have to remove 100,000 cubic yards every year to keep up with it.
right. And they said that ultimately that they would like, I mean, you're right, it was like in like 700,000 or 800,000 cubic yards that they would, to get it back to a
The
they-
B2?
it was an 80s level.
Yeah, one of those right in there.
But yeah, they said the contractor, so it just, I mean, they're gonna have to have something, that's like a massive
That's definitely long-term.
undertaking, right,
Yeah.
so.
But yeah.
Okay, so we can put that in kind of like, we can put the short term under like having a work session and maybe further discussions with the flood board and that larger group that
Yeah.
people are part of, and then meeting with Parks and Rec, so.
Yeah, a short-term one, maybe just on the actual RV park.
Yeah.
Because we can do that ourselves without
Mhm.
going with the state or
Yep.
federal.
Um, And we'll, I mean, I think we'll continue on with the cemetery master plan revision. Like, that's part of that's a chunk of the comprehensive plan,
Yeah.
so.
Can we also look at maybe tuning up the park on Third there?
Is it Quabi?
Nope.
The Dino Park?
The Purple Dinosaur.
Oh, the kids don't, yeah.
Maybe have a discussion on that and see if we can't find some way that just looks sad. And it's right there on the road where everybody drives by. It's used all the time, I walk by it.
What we should do is, because I know that there's a Parks and Rec master plan that Parks and
Yeah.
Rec sees, maybe we just like have a,
That's a fantastic idea.
I think we just, that they oversee, maybe we just have a work session with them, so that way we can figure out how to kind of collaborate and work together and how we can see what their plans are. I mean, I know they have a lot, like most of the city, they seem like they have a lot of old infrastructure that needs upgrade. They had to close the shower house because it basically blew up and fried.
Yeah.
It fried like a board, and they had to have it completely rewired.
Ugh.
And I mean, something melted onto something and it just went right on down. And so they have to completely redo that. And so it'd be just interesting to hear from, I think we'll have a work session with them.
Okay.
Just to understand, maybe like just go over their Parks and Rec master plan. I'm sure it's as old as the rest of our plans.
Yeah.
We have a lot of playgrounds, which is a real strength for this town. You know, we've talked about several of them tonight.
Mhm.
And so you could do like a whole improve them, you know, a little bit.
Yeah. I see people in them all the time.
Yeah, but they work, I mean, you know, but they're safe.
No, and my kids, like, when they were younger, like, my wife would drive into town, you know, a couple times a week, and go grocery shopping, and they'd be playing at different parks all the time.
Yeah, you
It's like,
switch it
you're
up.
right, huh?
Yeah, switch it up.
Totally switch it up, and you have all these different, we do it, you're right, we do have a lot of, and there's always the elementary school playground that people go to, which is a really fun one, and so, yeah, we have a lot of good parks that is a strength. Well, in the meantime, because we will obviously, like, this is a work session, we'll kind of put some of these things together, and then you guys will have to like officially approve this. And so in the meantime, if you guys think of other action items or look through this, you know, we can kind of add those in at the next
Okay.
round, or long-term, or any of that stuff, any edits there. So, but then I do want to hear from you about, you guys both had some changes that you would like to see or some recommendations. If there's not, we can move on to that if everyone's done with this piece.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one on, I don't know what page it is. It's map 53 where it talks about the park building being Old Sully's, and how it says administrative offices and winter visitor center. But I spoke to them today, and it's not going to be a winter visitor center. So I thought we might want to pull that off there. It's just for the administration.
Those doors are always locked.
Yeah,
You cannot get in there.
no.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't want you.
Yeah, when they weren't able to vacate, not vacate, to take out the Washington Street there and expand over the whole thing, they kind of decided not to do the Winter Visitor Center. That's the only one I had.
You got it? Okay. Mine's just a trivia kind of thing on first page for an introduction. It's, you gotta spell municipal lands, spell municipal, okay?
Oh, man.
If you forgot I. And the other thing was.
So what page is that on real
Oh,
quick?
just page one of your handout thing. It says, words introduction, second paragraph, remove land plan and add
Oh, yeah.
municipal. That's just
Thank you.
just a typo. And then on the second page for replace prison with Spring Creek Correctional Facility, it's actually a Spring Creek Correctional Center.
Center.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. And one last thing that I had was just a question. when we were talking, this is, the area lands to consider for acquisition back toward, I don't know what page is this, it's the second to last page. Just it's under lands to consider for acquisition. Basically, at one time, we were talking about the state maintenance shop on, near Woody's. And I thought we talked about at some point in time if there's a land trade or acquire it, however we can do that. Because all that is normally is just a big dirt pile or sand pile or something. It's a pretty valuable piece of terrain.
That's in here somewhere.
Yeah,
I couldn't find it, yeah.
Yeah, I will, we'll do another check for it.
Yeah.
Isn't it this one right here on
I
page
missed it.
94?
I remember talking about it and saying we wanted to acquire it if possible, but
Or is
when
it
asked,
is
they
it a
weren't
different
willing to
parcel?
get rid of it.
That makes sense. Why
They,
would
they were not, I still think we should,
nudge them?
It's a,
yeah, it does say that, it does, I don't think we have it in one place but not the other.
Okay.
But yeah, it is, and I do think, the recommendation should be to do like the phase 1, environmental study first.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and see if there's a DEC issue there?
Yeah, so that way you're not inheriting a piece of land for a trade that you end up having to invest like.
No, I can't.
Well, kind of like, I mean, like the Jesse Lee home, that's
Yeah.
like, I mean, we're over $500,000 easy
Yeah.
into just digging that out. So I do think putting it, I'll clarify with the phase 1 environmental, just so that way, which are not that expensive, but that way at least you know like you're getting it. That's still like one of the prime pieces of land.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right down from that little park that you want to clean up and stuff like this. I'd hate to think that something's like leaching down into the park.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure there's some diesel in there for sure.
So that's all I had. Carol?
I do want to go back to our appendix accomplishments on 198. We had such great momentum with both the July Beach and Spring Creek Beach. And I'd like to keep going to the replat and rezone. So what are the next steps? Because those are listed here as accomplishments, but they're not.
That's because the state hasn't redone their part and we don't have
Just the
signage.
city limit.
Yeah.
We need to deal with what we.
Right.
can. So we agreed on all these recommendations, but I'd like to keep going. So what would be the next step to bring forward the public hearings that are required for replats and rezones and get that on the schedule so that it actually happens?
Okay.
I'd like to keep that going.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a
I
good
think
point.
we get it done.
I just figured just rolling through and making it happen. We did our part and now we forgot about the rest of it.
Not yet.
Darn it.
It's still a big push.
And
Yeah.
I think we probably, when we have our work session with Parks and Rec, because ultimately we want to develop those into parks. I mean, some of them are parks. And so I think it needs to be part of that conversation. And then two, I think we need to figure out, work with them to come up with a budget so we understand how much we're gonna have to get, like, ask city council for. And where's that money gonna come from to do all that? So, but I do think it is, the thing that's nice is that a lot of this, like, they're filling in, they're doing some things, and we're not, it's not hard to create some nice signs and to put some well-placed boulders. From the rock quarry is just right up the Independence Levy Road.
Yes, there you go.
But so I do think that should be part of that work session, just because we like community development, like we're spending like Parks and Rec money when we get into that, and some of those things, or we're developing parks, we're developing spaces that are kind of, that they manage. And so I think it's good to have those conversations and how we can kind of move forward together as a, in that way, and then we can develop a budget on how much it's going to cost for signage, and other amenities, and having like designated parking, that kind of thing.
Well, that's important because, the more parks you have, the more you have to maintain. That factors into the creation of their budget and their personnel management and how they allocate resources. So it would be huge to have something together with them.
Yeah, and I think just understanding their budget, And so go that direction. But I do think that should be done in partnership with them when we have that work session put
Awesome.
underneath there. And that way we can kind of develop an action plan together for that and any other spaces that, you know, and understand what their priorities are, because I don't know what their budget is and what they're like. I know they're going to be spending a lot of money on the new shower house.
Oops.
But just kind of like, you know, Norm and the harbor bathrooms.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be good to have a work session with them and to go through all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they would handle the Jesse Lee Home Memorial Park too, or no? No, that's
Yep.
city. Yeah.
Yep, that would be like, so they, I mean, we've kind of remade the connection because the Parks and Rec director, that was a couple of Parks and Rec directors ago. He's the one who kind of got the Jesse Lee stuff going, and then when he left, I came on, and when he left, that we didn't have a Parks and Rec director, so that got pushed on community development.
Yeah.
And so that's why dealing with like the benches and dealing with all these other things. And so that got handed back to Mel recently, which is really great. But so anyway, I think we work really well together, and they have the equipment. It's been, you know, because they have playground equipment for that park already and some other stuff too. So, so anyway, I think it'd be good just to have a work session with them to go through. I mean, definitely a full, really good work session to go over that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they came up a lot tonight as far as going forward.
Yeah.
You know, with Parks and Rec.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I have another question. On page 195, the general policy recommendations. I thought we used to have a general policy to retain city limit. And I didn't see that in this list. Maybe I missed it. But right now, people are quoting, council is quoting, well, the community land plan says solid sound development plan instead of retain and lease or put it out for bid and get a request for proposals. So we're disposing of land that's not on your surplus list, but it says sound development plan. So I was wondering, didn't we have a policy that said lease instead of sell? Because that would be right up at the top, would be the guiding principle, that we want to retain our city land and over the very long term, keep revenue coming in from the lease.
Right.
Once you sell it, it's gone. It's gone forever. But that's what's happening, we're just selling land. So I would like to have that discussion if that's still not part of this general policy. I thought it was, and I think it should be, because that's how we keep revenue coming in. But
Yeah.
if all these things say, instead of, it just says sell the sound development plan, it's gonna be gone.
Yeah, I agree with Carol. I'm not sure if it was in here, but it should be in here.
It's in the disposal paragraph.
Yeah, I think it should be more forward than that. I've said it before, Rick. I don't think we should, I'm not a proponent of selling city land unless it's for residential, like a home, where it really could be leased in subdivision, but for commercial properties, we need to keep them and lease them out
Yeah.
for income for the future.
And you did, I think we also talked about too, that there's like, there's certain entities that we would sell land to.
Yeah, something that the city should normally own, like a hospital.
Right.
I think we had sell the senior center,
Yeah,
sell the hospital,
Mhm.
sell the boutique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it wasn't sell for agreement.
no,
It just came out very
I was against
piecemeal.
selling that as well. That was a
Yeah.
poor decision.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So I would appreciate the commission looking into that general policy to retain land and not just sell it without some great consideration.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can we do something like that? Because I would hate for the council to quote something like, we should sell this because it says sell with a sound development plan.
right.
So,
We've sold parts of Fort Raymond already, that obviously, that, are we piecemealing it out? Is that was the intent, or, I don't know.
it wasn't the intent.
Yeah, because we have Chugachmute obviously going in there, and then you have the Sewer City Tours, that one thing that's going in there as well, and there's some other pieces of land that potentially could be sold, or the old Public Works buildings going in that one area, but still, yeah.
None of those were on the surplus.
Yeah.
lands.
Yeah.
None of them.
They weren't, so I didn't think they should have been sold.
It's like, how would you word that?
I would have to think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
carefully, But I think
Yeah,
it'd be a good goal for the commission to establish a policy like that.
yeah, or at least there's that, you know, retain verse sell with a sound development plan. There's, you gotta have both, or, you know, with then discussion is built in, you know, have them both kind of on there, maybe retain leading.
There must be some old language that we used to have.
You know, I'd like to find that.
I'm sure you have some, yeah, something somewhere.
And it fit best under that general policy recommendations, because like, where possible, the city should strive to.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that, 'cause it is a policy recommendation, because ultimately, like, city council can, this can say something, and city council can be like, oh, we're doing it, and that's their choice.
Yeah.
They exercise their will that way. But we do make the recommendations. So I do think the general policy recommendations, it would be a good spot for that, if that's what the commission would like to do.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so retain where needed, and then if it serves the city's purposes or whatever thing, then sell with a sound development plan, and maybe you can tie it in together as to one language if you need to.
Yeah.
What about trade? You know, this trade talk is pretty interesting too.
And-
That
and-
was, you know, like,
Well-
Slightly different land.
okay.
Yeah, but there's some, I mean, there's definitely some pieces of property that it's like, that would be probably worth it to trade. But
I mean, the bigger issue is that the city gains money from all its leases. And
Right.
that goes into the general fund, and that keeps taxes down. If all that's gone, somebody has to pick up that slack. And I think at the beginning of this document, it said how much money was it? 580 some thousand annually? I think
Yeah, we're still asking for
First couple
the
pages.
lease rates for this year.
But-
Now that they've done the audit, I think we can get that, so.
Yeah.
So that leads to like citizens would prefer to retain. Right. When is it advantageous to sell?
In a couple, I think, spread this to a different time too, but, like Jason said, there's certain lots or certain facilities that we've talked about the city probably shouldn't necessarily own, like a hospital.
Hospital of
Right,
the
right.
Mountain Haven.
The Mountain Haven,
Alutic.
yeah, the Sea Life Center in
Fair.
Lutic fell in a spot because of grants. They were unable to gain proper grants for their facilities under the nonprofit, and I don't know about the Lutic, if they're profit or nonprofit, but the Sea Life Center, they weren't able to gain those because they didn't own their land. And so
Yeah.
they're missing out on grant.
Yeah, yes, and so, yeah, and now that they own it, they can invest in infrastructure,
Mhm.
and so,
Yeah.
so that changes the game, and that's great for what
So you
they.
could write that into these general policy recommendations, you know, sell when it is those examples, whatever is
Yeah,
common
that's true.
among those. you
Or
know.
a family home, you know, obviously not gonna lease a piece of property out for somebody to build a home and have a family in it.
Or like, if you're looking at the current public works facility, that's an appropriate place to,
Yeah.
This is 5
to-
Woodlands, right, we talked about.
yeah, it is to put, like, that's housing is gonna go there, and that's a really appropriate place for, to sell property for housing.
Oh, absolutely.
That's, you know, you're like, oh, of course we would do that there.
In order to do housing there, city needs to sell, right?
Right, and so, yeah.
Single family
Get into
homes.
some basics from here, but yeah. okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I mean, and that's gonna provide, I don't know, what we figured out, like 20 lots or something.
Lunch
like
there.
that. And also too, that's kind of playing the long game in the other way, they're all, because if you have 20 more homes there, you're getting like property tax, and then you're getting sales tax from people that live here, and so you're kind of playing the long game
Yeah, yeah.
that way. And then the other way too is if, the other thing that I think we had to, I don't know, I was talking to someone the other day, I think, but, you know, if we did have, like, if there's certain, like, very, like, valuable, someone came in and said, hey, here's $10 million for this tract of land, it's like, the other concept is creating like a permanent fund. And so you could take the money, put it in a fund, that would then generate revenue perpetuity. And so that's another type of, like, in my mind, a concept, if under the right conditions, or if you had the right pieces of land you could put together that would sell, that would if we didn't have a plan for them, you know, or
Yeah.
something like that, or else they could do something more than we could do with it type of thing. So there's other.
True. You know,
Wasn't the land bank idea in here? That's what you're talking about, the land bank? So we had a resolution a long time ago to set that up
Mhm.
with Andy Anderson's property across the bay.
Yeah.
And it just went into a general fund with gone.
yeah.
But there was a plan for a land bank.
Yeah.
The property, the city owned it was sold, would go into there and be available.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
it's listed there under G, under general policy recommendations, the land bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, I don't think we have a system set up yet.
Right.
That would be worth selling pieces of property to put it in a trust, because it's just gonna disappear in the general.
Right.
And right now it can't, because it's, well, it can, but it's
Right.
like, you know, monthly.
Right, and that's the kind of since we have our infrastructure is kind of like, we have a lot of delay, like stuff that needs to be upgraded, and so that's the immediate need of like, oh no, we should take that money and build this fire station, which is really important, of course. But at the same time too, if you take a big chunk of money that you had and you put it away, that can also help you make the bond payment, make a revenue bond payment.
Yeah,
And then also too, that's gonna be there for like, in 100 years from now or whatever, you know, and so I think there's other interesting concepts that, ways of looking, how can we leverage the land that we do want to sell in different ways, but you just have to people just want to take it and spend it over here right away. It's just
Yeah,
tough.
you have to have a proper trust to put that money in. That couldn't be,
No, yeah, it would have to be like, you can't withdraw from it, you can only add to it, and it's got to be invested in these ways so that it generates at least, I mean, there's no guarantees in generating stuff, but you can invest it so it generates certain minimums pretty easily. That would be a good source of income in perpetuity.
sure.
That's nice too, because if you have income like that, and like this last summer, like our sales tax is going to be down because of the weather. I mean, we just know it.
Yeah.
And camping revenue is going to be down, which are two major income things. And so at least on certain years, you have another source of income that helps you pay your things for the city and what you want to do with those things. And so it's just generating. So
I wouldn't be opposed to that, but you'd have to get it set up first. Because I don't trust that the money wouldn't just slip through
no,
in certain
and
areas.
really what you have to make that happen is you need to have something big that comes first that allows you to set up that large foundation, and then you can add to it later. You're never going to build it by like starting out like,
No.
I'm going to go put like 50 cents in the bank, and then hopefully like, you need to like start out with that really big cash deposit as the foundation, and then it motivates you to put more, and that way. So
Yes.
I mean, but just interesting things to talk about, and leveraging lands and using those sales in different ways as works, you know.
Yeah, that's true. So, in going back real quick, can we get a quick, not this moment, but a phrase to come together for talking about the city striving to maintain certain land areas, and maybe, like Sean was saying, I think it might be a good idea to have maybe like in this instance, or it could be sold if it fit these criteria. But
Yeah.
other than that, our goal is to maintain land for future generations.
Maintain, retain, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Where it's just clear to look at like, okay, retain is first, and then, okay,
Yes.
here's the criteria when selling these homes.
Yeah. They don't want council just quoting something that,
Yeah.
And that would involve going through the plan with your search, wherever it says sell the sound development plan, and make a list of those, and then consider each one and see how, they should go back to the disposal section, and do we want to sell them, lease them, or trade exchange those properties? So that's where the commission would decide, the Sea Life Center, that would go here, hospital, here,
yeah.
chamber, decide which way those properties should be disposed of.
Yeah, I like that because it's not so vague.
Yeah, very specific.
We have more ideas or specific ideas when it comes to something popping up. It's like, oh yeah, it's,
And then you can
Trade
see
or-
the scope of it.
Mhm.
And then you might hopefully decide, let's not sell the doorway playground, to the port playground. But it would pop up on this list and the public would see that, say, oh, let's sell that. Then it could be, let's put it back to maintain.
Mhm.
But right now, they're kind of scattered through the documents, so we're hard to see.
Or you can make it a snow lot, so that way they have somewhere to put their snow. No.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If we could, it'd be more work,
Okay.
sorry.
No,
but-
that's what this is for.
Work session.
Yeah, you're shaping stuff. And I do think, like, in my mind, this would probably never happen, but I think if you ever said, hey, we would like to exchange your land on this side of the street for our land on the other side of the street, I'm like,
It's in the plan.
well, it's not in the plan, but like, that's a consideration, like, you know, for the Ray Building property, for the UAF research facility property, you're like, oh, that's something to consider, because it seems like that's always gonna be used for this, and we could have uses for that across the way,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think that's great. Thank you,
okay.
Carol.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Anything
Alrighty.
else?
Anybody have anything else?
I have a couple of little things.
Yeah,
There was a typo on page 60, the third paragraph, at, all capitalized. And then,
hold on, page 60. Okay. Thanks for the catches.
Well, it's hard to proofread your own stuff.
Yeah, this
You
was
can
like
never do that. I can never. I always have to ask somebody else to proof it.
Okay.
and then, when we were looking at that map 30, that's on page 67. I don't know if this, I just noticed this right here when we were looking at it, but, is this a private lot next to it? Is it encroaching? There's this road, and I'm just curious if
That's a private lot.
encroaching onto the city land there?
Yeah, I don't know I actually couldn't tell you what's going on there, but yeah, that is a
Okay.
private,
He said
Uh,
it's page 67.
it's a funny,
What map is it?
It's map 30.
map 30 on page
Oh,
67.
yeah, that's that driveway from up.
Yeah, the driveway from
Scheffler
up, yeah.
Creek.
It just looks like it's going
And it's the
in.
guy, we've had contact with this guy
Look
recently.
at it.
What's his name?
Conics.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right, that's right, okay, we won't talk about that part.
That's the other side with that other one, that baby.
Yeah, yeah,
Looking
that's
at
where,
it.
yeah, it's the
Yeah,
driveway.
yeah.
Going
Yeah,
into the,
Yeah, he says
Oh,
there's some roads
weird.
encroaching.
Yeah.
Which road are you talking about?
just, we were talking about, you know,
Yeah,
this
that
whole
thing
thing,
before.
but then this goes up a mountain, and then there's this road.
Yeah, people run up that, right?
I don't know, this thing here.
Oh, he's talking about.
Go ahead.
Sorry, we're both touching. I won't touch the computer. This road.
Yeah, this thing, is that a
It's
road?
amazing.
Yeah, scroll down a little bit.
It's a wonder.
It's like, buddy.
I think I've seen that on someone's
You do.
Strava before, I'm not sure
Not
though.
one here.
there is.
Oh, shit.
Was it yours?
I'm not on Strava.
Don't want anybody watching.
No, but that's a good picture of it.
And I was just concerned that that
I
guy's
wonder if I
like
could-
building on the city land, but
It does look like it's.
kind of weird.
It's
Some of
yellow.
those lines are.
Hey, like I said, I don't,
Yeah.
the lines haven't been accurate, so maybe it's okay, but,
Yeah, something to look at.
and then map 62,
What page?
1 second, I lost the page.
136, 137.
It's page, it's actually not the map, it's page 139, the Polar Seafoods Dock Processing Plant Storage. I just was curious, it says deeded to the city an advance payment for 20 years use of the dock. And I was just wondering what that was and when that 20 years starts.
Polar right there.
I mean, I think it happened a long time ago, whenever that was probably built.
And what happens now, they're gone?
I think Polar still, because Bornstein was a subleasing at Polar,
They're gone.
and they're gone. And so I think Polar still retains it.
Okay.
And so they're still paying on it. Yep. So I think that, to answer your question, I think that window's over. I think that happened when they built that, probably like, when was that road put in, like in the 80s? You know, it was in the 80s? Yeah, so I think probably when they started developing that in the 80s or 90s, and when that window, that 20-year window probably started.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like these weird deals that like got put in when they're like, oh yeah, if you build this, you can just have it for 20 years and.
Yeah.
Yeah, time flies.
Right.
Would you want to retain employee campground and modified shipping container units? Because those are all gone. Do you want to retain that statement? Or do you want to update it?
No,
Striking.
Troy could, I don't like shipping container houses.
Yeah. There's a lot of them out there.
I'm not talking about the ones like real houses, I'm talking about like where they
Fish-
cut a door in it,
Yeah.
and put a bed in a corner.
On the
Yeah.
Polar Seafoods.
Which one?
They use those on a slope a lot.
Page 139.
The
Yeah.
second sentence.
We've driven out there,
Yep.
seen how they're tiled up there, make offices out of it.
As long as you're updating, happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anything else?
That's all I ever have.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Okay.
So I have one quick question with the change of personnel a little bit that you're doing and you know, with you hiring somebody to help you out there. Some of this is gonna be spread out a little, you know, because we've just dumped a lot of stuff on, on Courtney right now, and you too, you'll probably both be doing this for a bit. Is this gonna, I mean, I just wanna be sure that, obviously it's a priority, but we'll have to, you know, spread it out a little bit to accommodate your, you know, your work schedules, because this is, you know, a lot of, it's a heavy lift.
No, I don't think updating this is too bad. No, I mean, this won't take very long to get this, and then we can bring this back before you. I think we had this tentatively, like, when was it, November?
Yeah, we're October. It depends on if we do the joint work session with the flood board.
Yeah, but if you don't need to, we can, I mean, just gives us another window to kind of keep working into it and stuff. So, but yeah, I think, because we, I don't think the turnaround on this is going to be very long, so we can bring it back to you. When's our next regular meeting?
The third, no, yeah, the third is the, October 3rd is our next regular meeting.
Yeah.
So it's
So
probably
November 7th would be the one after, would be the next one.
oh yeah, right, November, yeah, you're right, November, yeah. Yeah. So we can bring it back to you in November?
Okay,
Yeah, 7.
sounds good.
And then, so at that meeting, you would be there for approval, and you would have kind of these, and then we would make note of the other additions and changes that we made, and then we can kind of focus on some of those statements at the end, and then your draft goals and plans and short-term and long-term pieces.
Would it have to be resubmitted to the city council then as for another
Yeah, so once you guys approve this, then it gets approved by them. And so-
council? Because when did we approve it last time? November last time?
We went through this in September, and I think it got approved in like, it was like October, November, the same
Okay.
time frame. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, same time frame last year.
yeah,
Feels like yesterday.
yeah.
Yeah. But luckily, I think it's like, in future years, then I feel like we're actually getting into like projects more, that this is saying, hey, let's look over here, we should dig into this more, and kind of working the document, making actual changes that will improve things versus the revision,
Yeah.
so.
I guess just one last thing I have a quick question on, and because of how the process goes. Because the comm plan, obviously, we have to sort of take a look at the updating that at the same time. And last time, and Carol, you did a lot of that stuff. You had town hall, meetings and things like this. That's a bit of a process too. I just want to be sure that our what we have, at least in the base of the comprehensive plan, is still consistent. Because as we write our, what we're approving, the CUPs and your narratives, when you write up that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, that people are coming for us, that we're still consistent, because that's sort of like a base document that's, we pull everything off of to make sure we give direction to everybody.
Yeah, and so I think, our comp plan, we need to, like, we had our technical public hearing, but really, like, the thing I wanted to do is, we have all these plans that sit within the comp plan or are part of the family comp plans, like there's the Muni Land Plan, there's the Cemetery Master Plan, there's the Parks and Rec Plan, there's the Harbor Plan. But I do think that this next year will be a good time. To one is, I think the first kind of round, looking at the comp plan will be something that you guys can do and just, I mean, there's just stuff that's like no longer valid.
Yeah.
And I think once you kind of clean that up, then you can kind of look at, the next easy part after that is like, it says, what are your accomplishments since the last revision? And so I think that's gonna be a fairly easy list to come up with, because you're kind of you're getting rid of what's no longer valid. You're saying, here's what we have accomplished in the last so many years. But I think then the tougher, where the work goes into is the looking forward pieces on the revision of like, what do we want for our community and how have things changed since we last did this? What's important to us? Where's our value? Because when this was done last time, is our value and what we're looking for still the same? That's probably changed a little bit. This was like, I think COVID changed everything, for the better or worse. But I do think that also we have another set of issues that we're looking at now that we need to address. And it's kind of the guiding document for how we want to shape our community and for the way we want it to look in 20 or 50 years. Some things are going to be exactly the same, but I also think there's going to be some pivots that need to be made in that document that the community needs to weigh in on.
I think it has to be balanced, because I think we're doing, we have a tendency, I forget when that exactly was produced, but it was a bit of time ago, but, we were looking at tourism being a great thing and everything else like this, which it is totally, but I think we're heavily tourism. And, and I think we need to remember that people like to live here year round as well, and there's gotta be a balance between keep the small town, keep the historical aspect of it, and also, benefit from the huge tourism, stuff here.
Yeah.
So I just want to be sure that we're, keeping things.
No, absolutely. And I do think we need to a balance piece is going to be coming how do we, I feel like right now our community is definitely summer heavy.
Yeah.
And I feel like what we need to do is how can we, through that comp plan, how can we shape our community to be more balanced on a year-round basis and be more year-round through however that looks. But
I think if we do that though, because, then if you focus on that, then, you're going to be putting a little more priority into, like we're trying to do, the long-term housing, the businesses staying year-round, and a variety of other things, so we don't shutter everything at the end of the season.
Yep.
I think that's where we, can put our efforts as well.
Yep. Yeah, no, I do agree though, it's about balance and finding we do want to keep it small town, this is where we live, we need to have enough other uses that enables us to live better, but we need to just have it year round.
Yeah. Okay, I just didn't want to, just throw that out there
Yeah,
too
no,
much. I don't want to get too dealt, but I just don't want to let that, sometimes those documents become historical and they're not consistent with what we're doing now, and then you're just, using it as a term, but it's not meaning anything.
Yeah, and we need to have a vision because that we can all rally around, because if we don't have a vision and direction, then it's really, we're not going anywhere. So.
That's good. Good, well, I'm glad we didn't overburden you with what we came up with, so I was a little worried there for a minute.
No, this is pretty, it's not bad at all.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? No. If you guys are good, we'll adjourn the work session.
All right,
Good
thank
deal.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Progress. Yeah, you obviously paid it. You do a lot of work on that, and I appreciate it.
It was last year.
Appreciate it.